Good day, Africa, and welcome to another exciting edition of AAU Talks on AETV. My name is Kwesi Sam, and as you already know, we are still continuing our mainstreaming of the Pedagogical Leadership training organized by the Partnership for African Social and Governance Research, PASGR, based in Kenya, and we are live from the University of Ibadan, and where we spent 1 week talking about how university teachers or lecturers must be able to transform teaching and learning processes in African universities. And we are privileged to have the Director of Higher Education, PASGR, and she's in the person of Dr. Beatrice Muganda. And she's going to give us the overview of the training and then the way forward as well, and the key lessons that we have been able to learn out of the 1 week training here in the University of Ibadan. So you're welcome to AAU Talks, Dr. Muganda.
Thank you once more.
Great.
Pleasure.
All right. Yes. So I think we met 6 months ago.
Yes, we
where
did.
we were talking about pedagogical leadership in Africa.
Yes.
And then we looked at the inceptional stages of how possible this project could take off beautifully.
Yes.
So I think we should take it from there, from December where we met, what has been the action plan, the learning outcomes to May 2019.
Wonderful, yes. Before I proceed, let me begin by acknowledging the partnership in its fullness. So I am Beatrice Muganda, Director of Higher Education at the Partnership for African Social and Governance Research, based in Nairobi. But PASGR is the lead partner in a consortium of 8 institutions.
Okay.
The rest are the Institute of Development Studies, University of Sussex of the UK. We also have Africa Research Universities Alliance, ARUA, and then we have 5 implementing partner universities led by the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. We also have the University of Ghana in Ghana. We have Dar es Salaam University in Tanzania. We also have Egerton University in Kenya. And finally, Uganda Matters University in Uganda.
All right.
Yes, and we are funded by the Strategic Partnerships for Higher Education, Innovation, and Reform. And SPHERE is a grant scheme supported by the Department for International Development.
That's a long one. Great.
Yes. So we are here courtesy of, the partnership and our funders.
All right. So you made mention of partner university. You mentioned about 5 key universities.
Yes.
What does it take for a university to be a partner, or they were partners right from the inceptional stages of the project?
So the initial partners were there at the conception stage, and we discussed these ideas with them and put together the proposal for PEDAL.
All right.
However, PEDAL is for all African universities. So any university that's interested in working with us to transform the teaching and learning practices in programs at the institution can send us a request, a letter, an expression of interest, and we'll work through the proposal and see how we go there and help them roll out PEDAL.
Okay. All right. So let's go deeply into PEDAL.
Yes.
I know you have been an academic, and still
Yes.
an academic. You've lectured in university setting for some time.
Yes.
But why do you think we need pedagogical leadership in such a time like this in Africa?
Oh, we sure need to transform our teaching and learning practices. There has been hue and cry that our graduates are not really coping at the workplace. And part of this is because our curricula are very much knowledge focused as opposed to skills.
Skill-based.
So through PEDAL, we are trying to inculcate not only the knowledge, but also the skills and the right attitudes for work. And so then we work with teachers to transform their practices in classrooms to create job-ready graduates, but also graduates who are ready to create opportunities for others, for themselves and for others, and to be fully functioning members of the society, politically, socially, leading on all fronts, and just leading the way for socioeconomic transformation.
Okay. So, Doc, you made mention of a key point where some schools of thought have different ideologies about the reasons why we have huge numbers of our graduates being unemployed. Others say that it's because industries are not expanding. That is why some of them, and we have huge numbers graduating every year, but not necessarily the absence of skill to work in industries.
So there are many factors, of course, and we cannot excuse our economies. Yeah, there are structural features that also, contribute to this. But we are saying that there are many stakeholders,
Okay.
and each stakeholder has a role to play. The government has a role to play in terms of just spearheading economic development and availing opportunities in the economy.
That's right.
The industry has a role to play by putting up establishments and also taking up the students even on internship, even helping in the curriculum, design, so that the content that we teach in the classroom also speaks to their needs. But institutions also have a role to play.
Yes,
So by focusing attention on the institutions, I am not exonerating other stakeholders.
Okay.
Parents too have a role to play
Yeah, right.
to learn the whole, to contribute to the holistic development of their children. So my message is that let all the stakeholders play their role. So
Okay.
now we're talking about universities. What can the universities do, and how can PEDAL help them to deliver the right kind of graduates?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's focus on PEDAL.
Yes.
And then look at the content.
Yes.
Because if you want to transform teaching and learning at the university, I believe that there are a whole lot of factors that come to play.
Yes.
And so what goes into the content of PEDAL? I know there are several modules. Can you walk us through the modules? Probably maybe some universities may find one or two lacking areas and would want to.
So what's interesting about PEDAL is that it has evolved from actually what is offered in the universities in education. So there are core subjects that are offered in education that help teaching staff to teach, especially in the Bachelor of Education program.
Okay.
So we looked at these learning domains and teased out what would be immediately applicable in a classroom. And then we looked at what's the practices and what's obtaining in other universities abroad. In the US, because in designing PEDAL, we worked with the University of Minnesota in the case study approaches.
Okay.
We worked with the Open University, and we worked with the IDS University of Sussex.
Okay.
But we also worked with our participating universities. So there are things that we teased out of the education program. And so it was very interesting in this program that we've just finished at the University of Ibadan. One of the professors from Obafemi Awolowo University said when he looked at the program, he wondered, this looks like any other education program. But when he sat in, he realized it was a difference because, as you know, knowledge has its core domain, but evolves, and of course then we capture the emerging content to enrich the content. So PEDAL is drawn from the education knowledge domains. So we have educational foundations.
Okay.
We go right back to the philosophy, and we ask teaching staff to reflect on their own beliefs about teaching and learning. Are they pragmatists? Are they realists? And how does this impact on their teaching and learning practices? So, for example, those who just dictate notes have a certain belief, and those who involve students in the teaching and learning process more actively are more pragmatic. So that we draw from education foundations. Then there's the theories of learning.
Okay.
And this then exposes teaching staff to think about the learning needs of students and how this can be made
Okay.
based on the early thinking about how students learn. So we have those that believe that from the classical theories, it has to be through repetition and through regurgitation of facts. But then we have also those that believe that, students may not know much, so you have to bank
Sure.
the ideas in them, and then, they'll reproduce it on an exam. But we are trying to move towards a more constructivist approach to say these are adults, they're bringing their learning experience on the table. Can we help by facilitating more knowledge, helping them to expand what they know, helping them to make the right connections, what is in theory and what is out there, and how they two can connect. So help students to make more meaning. So this is all drawn from the theories of learning.
So more or less, you are moving from the teacher-centered approach to a learner-focused approach.
Yes, and so from education foundations, teachers are able to question their own beliefs.
Okay.
Have they even taken time to understand the way students learn? And if they do, how are they responding to this? We have, the multiple intelligences theory, and, how different students have are better endowed in certain abilities than others. So when you use different methods of teaching, when you use multimedia, you know, students respond in a different way. So, you know, it's good to just mix these approaches so that you meet the different needs of students.
Okay.
And so this is from the education foundations. We also stretch them to, you know, just look at what's happening in society and link it to what's happening in the classroom.
Okay.
And so make the education more relevant, more responsive to societal needs. That is education foundations
alone.
Then we move to transformative curriculum and learning design.
Okay.
So again, we are not changing the curriculum of universities, but we are enhancing its quality. For some universities, they just have a course description. So if you have a course description and some objectives, any teacher can stretch that learning in any direction. So we walk them through the process of developing or refining learning outcomes, looking at the strategies that help students towards attaining those learning outcomes, and always keeping an eye on knowledge, keeping an eye on skills, and especially transferable skills that are needed for the 21st century, and the values and attitudes. And then we walk them through learning design.
Okay.
How do you design a learning experience so that students come out of it with the highest level of satisfaction,
And
saying
confidence,
this was exceptional. I feel more confident. I can do this on my own. That concept was hard, but after this lesson, I can understand it. I can use it. I can, you know, apply it. So that's all in curriculum. So beyond that, we then go to the pedagogical strategies. So through the theories of learning, they have learned that students or learners learn in a particular way. And so because of that, if they use, for example, experiential learning approaches like the case studies, like the role plays, where they get students to experience something, then they develop skills better, then they are better able to retain what they have learned. So when we go to these pedagogical strategies, we start demonstrating practically what simulations are. And we've done things like go on a boat, you know, and learn how decisions that are made to save specific individuals when a boat is sinking. We've gone on a plane and also just, you know, enacted the same. We've done voting and enacted out the Kenya election outcome of 2022. We also, you know, did some betting and, you know, kind of simulated who's going to win the Premier League in the UK. So very interesting things that make them really immerse themselves in the process and then see what is the difference between, let's say, a simulation and a role play, what are the benefits, and then think through, how can I apply this in my own classroom? Moving out of that, those are the pedagogical strategies and models. We go to the fourth one, which is innovative assessment. And we are working with teaching staff not only to assess knowledge through, let's say, continuous assessment tests, which is sometimes just cuts. Yeah, or, you know, long papers, long essays. And
the paper pencil test.
Yes, exactly, and the final exam. But to look at the learning outcomes that are emerging from every learning experience. If it is a presentation, how are you helping students to become more confident? You know, it is assessment for learning, not of learning. Assessment of learning is they didn't learn much, they have failed. They learned much, they have passed. But assessment for learning is identifying gaps in the learning process in terms of attaining the learning outcomes and continuously helping the students to increase, to advance towards the expected learning outcomes.
So Doc, one key thing, I believe this is a homegrown solution. A homegrown solution means that it is African-based.
Yes.
So in terms of your facilitators, who are they? Are they drawn from African universities or they are drawn from your partner universities outside the continent?
Before I answer that, I'll just quickly go through the last two modules. So there's pedagogical leadership, and in a nutshell, once we've trained our teaching staff, we empower them also to share this within their departments, within their university, and other colleagues outside of the university.
Okay.
And then technology enhanced learning is a big thing.
Okay.
And teaching staff are very excited about it. We have testimonials like, I have never used technology before, but after 7 days of training in Pedal, I created a website.
Okay.
So this is amazing.
Okay.
Okay, so about the resource persons.
So before you go to the resource,
Yes.
let's go for a short break, and when we return, we'll look at the resource persons,
Okay.
and then also the other. Viewers, you
Wonderful.
are still watching the Pedagogical Leadership Training, and we are privileged to have Dr. Beatrice Muganda, who is the Director for Higher Education of PASGR. Keep watching.
One of the universities set up in our pre-independence era, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Our international reputation has and continues to soar as a reference point in matters of science and technology, research and education. We believe that the future belongs to those who have sound technology acumen.
I love USD.
I love KNUST.
Welcome back from the break. If you just tuned in, you are still watching AAU Talks, and today we are privileged to have Dr. Beatrice Muganda once again, and we are going through what went on at the University of Ibadan during the Pedagogical Leadership Training in Africa, and she's given us a very good overview and what to even expect next. Doc, so before we went on a break, we were about looking at the facilitators and also find out whether these are homegrown solutions. So you can take it from there.
Thank you. So when we designed Pedal, as I indicated earlier, we had a pool of international resource persons working with our own, teaching staff. So we have gone through a process of apprenticeship where through every training we spot talent and we include them in the resource pool. And, they go through a process of co-teaching, observation, then they join the team.
Well.
So our vision is that in every university, we will have at least 10 teaching staff who are adequately prepared to train others in the university. And this will be, a sustainable solution to enhancing teaching and learning practices at the university level without necessarily really drawing resource persons from across the continent. But for now, we appreciate this approach. There's cross-fertilization of ideas, yes, and also just sharing experiences from the different contexts. Yes, so we are proud that, we have an international solution that is locally relevant and driven by our own teaching staff.
By Africans?
Yes.
That's great. And that is one of the key points that I really want us to put across.
Yes.
But moving from there, let's even go straight into the achievement. I know this is not the first training. It started somewhere. Can you just take us through where the first PEDA training took place, what were the lessons, and then the second one also, or the current one that we are having at the University of Ibadan?
Yes, I'll just quickly go through that we had a pilot in Nairobi in July last year, and we trained about 41 teaching staff. Then we had the central training in Nairobi in August, and we trained about 149 teaching staff. Then January 2019, this year, we trained 23 teaching staff from the University of Nairobi. And then the big one was in March of this year. We went to Uganda and Entebbe and brought together 7 universities and trained 110 teaching staff. So there are major breakthroughs with this Uganda training as well, because we brought together small universities, big universities, universities that are drawn to different faiths, who had never really had some serious engagement before. We broke these barriers, dissolved these stereotypes, and they came together to talk about pedagogical practices and to learn together, to share expertise, to share materials, and join an active community of practice that is moving decisively to lead the transformation agenda in Uganda.
Great.
So that was 110. We have also worked with a number of teaching staff to develop case study material that can be drawn on for teaching not only PEDAL but the different subjects.
Okay.
And then Ibadan was the biggest. So in Ibadan, we have successfully trained 250 teaching staff.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so we did this in 6 parallel sessions,
Okay.
and that meant bringing on board about 60 resource persons.
That's huge.
Yes, it was, yes.
Okay. So the lessons from the one you did in Kenya, in Uganda, and then in Ibadan, do you see some correlations, especially the problems that you identified or the key issues that you identified? Do you see some resemblance in all of them, or every country has a specific or a different issue or challenge that you identified?
So the challenges are more or less the same. We have the issue of technology, and I must highly commend teaching staff of the University of Ibadan for that, because we tried to go around this issue and we knew that it was the elephant in the room, but they came with their own modems and used their own data, but we were able to subsidize them along the way. So this was really heavy commitment on their part. So we've had issues of technology, but as you know, PEDAL does not just advocate technology enhanced learning alone. We are very much aware of the issues in our context, the African context. So PEDAL focuses on unleashing the potential of teaching staff to innovate through role plays, through group discussions, storytelling, and other forms of problem-based learning. So we are achieving a lot despite the challenges with technology. And then we have moved to be even more practice-oriented. And so the simulations, for example, every time we think of an interesting idea that we are going to simulate, so they are evolving. Same learning points, but different stimulation. Yes. And we have crossed into the undergraduate programs. So initially, PEDAL was for graduate social science programs. But you come as a teacher, you're empowered, you teach postgraduate programs, you teach undergraduate programs. So teachers are coming with very interesting stories and saying, you know what, I gave them material to read. There were 200. I divided them into 20 groups of 10 each. And then I told them, okay, you read the material, enact a role play. And I choose the presenters randomly and I ask the others to critique. And then, they get the feedback and say, now write a report based on the lessons that you have learned from the critique of the role play. Initially, we did not anticipate that. With Ibadan, PEDAL has crossed decisively into the sciences. And this, again, was not anticipated. We thought we were going to move that road slowly. But the transition, especially with curriculum design, is seamless.
So smooth,
It's seamless. So in fact, our first experience was in April this month. We just came to the University of Ibadan and trained managers on curriculum redesign. And most of the programs in Ibadan are science-based. And they really benefited from this. So in this particular program, we now offer the whole of the PEDAL training, the 6 modules. And you cannot believe that we have some doctors. I mean, every participant is important, but I'm just illustrating. We have doctors who have their consultancy clinics, but they were with us for a full 7 days, attending PEDAL, asking questions, offering examples of simulations that can be used within their context.
That's great.
Just allow me to give one example from architecture. So we have this professor of architecture who says, I can see how I can use a role play. I'm going to get all the actors involved, the engineers, the architect, and
even
the designers,
suppliers,
everybody, on the site to discuss the project. So it's amazing how we are just breaking barriers into the different disciplinary areas. And I must tell you, we are overwhelmed by the growth of PEDAL in numbers, in spread.
And in quality as well.
Yes.
Great. All right. So right after University of Ibadan, what is the next training session?
Oh, we will convene in Mombasa in June, so that all the teaching staff we trained last year can share their stories of pedagogical transformation, their journey, the opportunities, how they were used, any challenges, how this was addressed. I think this will really be good in terms of just maintaining the momentum and stimulating
sharing
their
knowledge
interest
and everything.
and just teasing out lessons that can also help us advance as we move forward.
Okay.
But the big one is Ghana.
Okay.
We are coming to Ghana in a big way in August.
That's fine.
We're going to train teaching staff from 7 universities, University of Ghana, as well as 6 private and public universities.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then any university in Ghana, maybe who'll be watching us is free to apply.
Yes,
That
yes,
they
they are
want to-
free to contact the University of Ghana.
Okay.
And our contact person for the University of Ghana is Professor Esther.
Such Dawson?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, one key thing that I wouldn't let you go without asking has to do with the fact that after going through these trainings for some few time, do you find out certain critical issues for policy? For example, do you find certain issues in the universities that you think it must go to the highest or the apex body, maybe to the Association of African Universities, maybe to the vice chancellors, for some kind of change?
Oh, yes. We have issues that are arising. Let us talk about issues of assessment, for example. If we mark the exams just based on, if we focus too much on exams, paper-based exams, then we are losing out on capturing the emergence of other skills. So discussions around how we can also, enhance the weight of continuous assessment tests, whereby they're not just tests, but they're outcomes from presentations, class participation.
So means focus on other domains of education.
Exactly. So that's one big issue. Another big issue is the whole issue of professionalizing teaching. We know that, as long as you're a content expert and you have the opportunity, you step into class. But teaching staff are coming to us and saying, this should have come earlier. I realized that I really needed to know something about teaching and learning. And so we have started this conversation with commissions for university education in Kenya, in Uganda, in Nigeria. And they are very much open to ideas of how we can adapt PEDAL as a standard for professionalizing teaching and learning at the universities.
Great.
Yes.
So your final word, where do you want to see PEDAL in the next 10 years? If we mention PEDAL, what should we say about PEDAL?
We want to see PEDAL as a norm in teaching and learning in each university. And so in the next 10 years, I have a vision of this centers of excellence in teaching and learning in each university, offering PEDAL on a sustainable basis. But also, we have the PEDAL postgraduate programs that are being developed. Yeah, and at diploma level, at certificate level, and even at master's level. And so going forward, I'd like to see these programs accredited, launched, and fully operational.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beatrice Muganda, for granting this beautiful interview. And then we want to also commend you for the good job that you are doing. We are solidly behind you and want to see the progress of PEDAL each year, each training sessions as well.
Always a pleasure collaborating with the Association of African Universities. Let us make this work for Africa.
It's possible.
Thank you.
All right. Viewers, this has been the end session, or let me say that this has been one of the strategic ways of wrapping up the pedagogical leadership training, which began last week and then ended just officially yesterday. And we have been speaking with Dr. Beatrice Muganda, who is the Director of Higher Education at PASGR, and practically the officer responsible for the pedagogical leadership training that has been going on the African continent. Keep watching AAU TV for wonderful educational stuff. My name has always been Kwesi Sam. Thanks for watching.